graduate of Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and the School for Social Research in New York City. He also taught in Social Sciences Department at Hostos Community College of the City University of New York. He pursued further studies in general theoretical psychology at Fordham University of New York City. He has authored a series of articles and books, one being an exceptionally well-written book, The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. He has also taught a dynamic 5-week course on self-hatred. He is currently the co-owner of the Harlem Graphics near the Apollo Theater, located in New York. On my personal consideration, I like to say that he shines like Rod Daly, since he speaks the truth and expels falsehood through his wisdom. He has given us strength to continue our struggle in this foreign land, which our ancestors were forced to come to. May the radiant light that he is blessed with never diminish. May his righteousness endure. May his righteousness be for eternity, for it endures. Its worth is real and will lead him to blessedness. What more can be said that he is part of a never-ending African tradition? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Amos Wilson.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. It's good to see you here again today and to see your concern about the continuance and the survival of our people. I'm going to talk a bit about economics. Of course, I do not claim to be an economist, nor a person who's heavily versed in business. In fact, I think one of the major issues we have to confront in this, in our present set of circumstances is that while we have done a good deal to rediscover our history and, of course, to highlight our history, and there's a good deal of information concerning our bodies, melanin, and so forth, I think we need to broaden the themes of the kind of education we are giving in the community. And one of the things we have to do is that, of course, is broaden our theme around economics. We need a person, as we have some very distinguished people in history and anthropology and education and other areas who've spoken to us on many occasions. I think in addition, we need someone of stature, someone whom we respect, to speak to us continuously about economic development and economic realities. There is a major question as to our survival as a people into the 21st century. And as you can see, the title here, African American People Facing the 21st Century. Are we ready? It is a very, very pertinent question. While we have duly and rightfully emphasized our history, and we should continue to do so, we must also be futuristic in our orientation. Thank you. And plan for the future. Think not only in terms of the next few years, but in terms of the next 100 years or so. In about a month or two, we'll be talking about, of course, the greatness of our people, and we'll celebrate that greatness of our people. But we must remember, we must not forget that great peoples and their civilizations were and are based on great economic systems. Too often, I think when we discuss the greatness of our people, we put a great deal of emphasis on spirituality, as we should, and the emphasis there is certainly right in many ways. But But I think sometimes we forget that greatness is more than merely the gods we worship. You see, that, and I say somewhat facetiously, that I have yet to see a god build a temple. We talk about Egyptian temples and so forth, or build any building. Buildings are built by people. And buildings are not just built by a spiritual impulse alone. There has to be an economic, social system that's the basis and foundation for buildings to take place. So when we talk about the greatness of our people and our civilizations, we must remember those civilizations were also based on great economic systems. They were based on effective control over some vital resources. So when we talk about the empires of Ghana, Mali, and so forth, we see them having some control over salt or gold or some other resource that was needed and that was used by other people and traded with in terms of other people. And therefore, you'll see the civilizations built around the control or influence on vital resources. When you talk about the building of great cities and so forth, we have to recognize that great cities and great philosophical systems and great religious systems and so forth come into being when agriculture has now become controlled by people, when there's enough surplus food produced for people to have time to engage in philosophical discourse and thought and writing and development of art and skills and other kinds of things. When there's enough agricultural surplus so that vast armies of people who build pyramids and build great temples and build cities can be fed, so that the people who supervise them are paid and fed. The people who build these great civilizations and administer these great civilizations must ultimately be fed from the surpluses produced by these civilizations. If we're going to talk then about the future greatness of black people and of African people, then we cannot talk about that without talking about the building of an economic substructure. It is not going to be built merely by worshiping ancestors. It's not going to be built merely by recognizing our past greatness, or merely by just knowing ourselves. All of those things are key ingredients. Don't get me wrong. However, we also have to recognize that we've got to get down to the nuts and bolts of an economic system. So then, the great civilizations of our peoples were built on great economic systems, effective control over some vital resources, and some conducive social political organization. And I'll talk in a minute about the fact that an economy is not just the presence of money. That the ultimate foundation of an economy is the nature of the relationship between people. In fact, you can have an economy without money. Economies were present and were enormously influential before money in the form that we use it came into being. So we must recognize ultimately that an economic system is a system of human relations. And so when we talk about our great civilizations, we must see that you are talking about civilizations that had systems, had social and political systems, and systems of human relations that made their greatness apparent. So these systems must contain then compatible social political organizations and self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, self-acceptance, courage, vision, daring, and leadership. The having of an economy, of course, it enhances the quality of life for people, enhances our possibilities for survival. Not just, the economy just does not just keep us alive, but actually makes our dreams, makes it possible for our dreams to come true and to create the kind of world we would like to create. You hear a lot of talk about AIDS, for instance. And unfortunately, I think a great deal of the talk